we are, I think, live on Twitch. And we're live on Reddit, too. We're doing the Ask Me Anything on Reddit today. We've been doing it all day since, 8 o'clock this morning or something. 8:30 or so. Pretty good. Lots of questions, lots of comments, lots of discussions about castles and crusades, aired upcoming projects, including the Terraformed Venus, which seems to be the most, drawing the most attention these days. All right, good deal. We got visual and vocal. That's good. It always helps these streams a little bit. I still haven't fixed whatever's going on with the background here. Seems like a lot of work. Much ado about nothing. Been watching a lot of Hamlet lately, so if that kind of spills out, it might be. I watched Mel Gibson's Hamlet, and then chunks of it, anyways, and then chunks of Kenneth Branagh's Hamlet. And I gotta say, I love Kenneth Branagh, but how's it going, Perry? But Mel Gibson, he wins the day. I mean, his portrayal of Hamlet is through the roof, fantastic, and his the scene where he's talking to the skull, to the jester, when he's holding the jester in his hand, and the scene where at the end where he has discovered that he has been killed. Man, can Mel Gibson act? How's it going, Retro? I remember the first time, of course, we've all seen Mad Max, but the scene in Lethal Weapon, yes, it's Lethal Weapon, and the scene in Lethal Weapon where he is sitting on the couch and he's contemplating suicide. You know, his wife has been killed, and he's living in the trailer out there, and that whole scene where he puts the gun in his mouth and just sweating bullets, and that scene is so powerful. I remember watching that at the movie theater with Todd Gray, and I turned to him and said something like that. This man can act at anything. And not long after that, he was cast in Hamlet, and the director of Hamlet actually said that's the scene that won him over, because he's such a phenomenal actor. Mel Gibson's just, it is rare that I miss a Gibson movie. I know he had a little bit of a kerfluffle with anti-Semitism or whatever. I don't think he's particularly an anti-Semite or any of that. I think he's a man of many passions, and was very, very drunk, probably washing his father's propaganda from his system. But at any rate, alas, poor York. Yes, yes, Big Danger. Alas, poor York. Just this great scene. It's just a fantastic scene. I was actually, the reason that it popped up on my screen, yesterday I was working on the bone runes for Rune Lore, for the Adventure Spellbook. And I was just looking for anything, for any scenes, whether it's a photograph, a painting, a sketch, a piece of a movie, or anything like that, that has someone interacting with bones in some way to kind of inspire me forward. And that scene popped into my head, and I thought, well, this is really cool, so I tracked it down and watched it. And I watched it on YouTube there, just the scene where he's talking to Yorick's skull. And it's just fantastic. It's just through the roof fantastic. Absolutely love it. Is this Trick to the Trade or AMA today? It's supposed to be AMA, but God only knows. Thank you for the subscription, Perry Chalmer. Very much appreciated. Appreciate your comments over on the Reddit discussions as well. I've been having a lot of fun with that today. Very, very cool. I have a question today. Excellent. I think, did Tim change it? I don't know what we're doing. Troll Talk number 51, maybe? I don't know. And why is this guy down there with guns shooting? What is that? I don't even know what that is. I'm opening that up to see what that... Uh-oh, that just took me somewhere. Tabletop RPG. I don't know what that is. I suspect it is none of my concern. And thank you for the subscription, Epi. Very, very cool. Was that you? You got an emote. Thanks. No, wait. Yes, Epi, you subscribed too. Yes, there you go. Thank you, sir, for the subscription. Very much appreciated. Hey, look who brought no Mountain Dew. We're going to make a movement to have Mountain Dew thrown out as the unofficial drink of gamers, and Dr. Pepper put in its place. Steve, not replaced. Steve, I'm curious to what your creative process is. So it's a good time to ask that question because I literally spent all day yesterday working on bone runes, on these spells for the Adventure Spellbook. And of course, the rune lore is deeply tied in the Aryan mythology, which is where I always want to be and always want to write about. And it's the fiction that I'm working on. I just finished Flowers from Brescia. It's a little short story, and I'm working on a third short story for the next book. But generally speaking, when I dive into it, and this is what I do yesterday, so I knew my subject was spells, and I knew my subject was going to be the bone runes. So I just went to Pinterest, my favorite source of images, and began to I just typed in, I think I typed in crypt first. And then I remembered that there was a famous church in, I think it's Czechoslovakia. It might be in Slovakia. I'm not really sure where. It's got bones decorating the walls and, all over the place, and the lanterns and everywhere. And that popped up, and then I started looking at pictures of bones, just anything to kind of fire up my imagination and to make me want to go in this direction, or to take this image that someone has put together and, extract something from that. And once that kind of got me going and got me to thinking, and then I just start thinking about where the literary side of these spells, what I want them to accomplish. My games are pretty are kind of heavy on the story side, I think. Lots of action, but pretty heavy on the story side. So with these images, I want anything to kind of fuel that. And then I just start making notes, bits and pieces of notes that I can flesh out later, and that's sort of what I did. I wrote down like the introduction I want, 3 sentences, and then the next paragraph or the next section is the dead, and the next section is the undead, and then the spells. And then as I was working on the spells, kind of concocting what I wanted, I gave myself a completely arbitrary target number of 20. I wanted that done yesterday, ended up with like 24 or something. And as I'm doing that, something kind of triggers, and then I'll go and write out the introduction. I kind of have a couple of comments on what I want the introduction to say, and then I want it limited to X. So then I wrote that, and I was done and moved on to the next one. So that's kind of the creative process. It's a lot of fun. I gotta say, once I get into the zone and I can put all of Trollord Games' crap to the side, equipment failures and deadlines and editors and all this other stuff, if I can put that out of my head, and then it goes much faster and smoother. But at any rate, did you enjoy your Reddit AMA, Steve? I did, actually. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It's still technically going on. If we're going to run it till 5, I'm going to be checking it back. I think it's kind of run its pace, but it was kind of cool. I know that Reddit can be this, pretty rough and tumble platform, but I think it went over fairly well. Screw the dude, bring the pepper. Exactly, Willie. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely. Perry, come on, man. Drink one of them. Yeah, it's clever. I'm glad that helped. I hope that helped. It always starts with Pinterest, which wasn't the case before, but Pinterest is just a crazy wealth of pictures, and they've got really good. I used to use Bing, to go to Bing Images, but they changed the way they do stuff, and I hate Google. So Pinterest has just got a really good algorithm now that all kinds of stuff comes up that's near what you type in, which I appreciate. And actually, I suspect that if I'd use it more efficiently, like pin things more often, then it would work far better for me than it is now. And I got to say, and this is fine, this is great, everybody's got to pay the bills, but Pinterest has started these ads that are motion, I guess, little 20-second spots, but it's very distracting to my... It's very... I'll stop. Why is that girl eating that? Oh, it's a cake. Oh, they want me to buy cake. And then I'm, and then I'm off target. But root beer. I love some root beer, but only once in a while. It's crazy, crazy sweet. I don't do dew and only occasionally do pepper. Root beer for the win. There you go, Flynn. OJ Flynn, you're already ahead of the game. You do a lot of page layouts for a lot of the final product. So the way that works here, I throw it to Peter, and he does the heavy lifting. He gets it all set in. What do you call them? The footers, the headers if they're there, and all of that stuff, columns and blah 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 blah. And we've got templates that he builds that into, so he's pretty fast with that. Then he puts the art in, and then I'll go back in and do minor fixes and changes. There's always things that we want to change in the end. Then I'll go back in and kind of move this or pull this picture out, put another picture in that I have, or add a picture if it wasn't in there, or whatnot. Because I have the final say on what the book's going to look like before it goes to print. And there's a couple of things I like to look for. that if I miss, they're not egregious, and they don't seem to bother the end user, but they bother the living crap out of me. And it's this kind of overlay the text get if you have an unlayered picture on one side of the page. Your text will show the layers. It'll give it a double layer. It kind of gives it a reflection, so the text is darker than it is in the rest of the book, and it drives me absolutely bonkers. So I look for things like that, and then try to catch, if we've moved pages and the footer is off or the header is off or something like that. And then once that's done, it gets kicked back to Peter to do a final look over and to adjust whatever he feels like needs adjusting. And then it comes back to me, and that's the last. I get the last look, and it rolls off from the press to the press there. So yeah, I do a lot of page layout. Ogham runes carved into bones is a thing. Ogham runes. Lord Gazumba, thank you for the subscription. Very much appreciated. Yeah. Yeah, I came up with quite a few. I mean, I think I got it open here. It's 24, I think. And they range from crossing the water to conjure bones, marrow, mold flesh, discard flesh, death's terror, shine a light, simulate life. And I actually did one called Urik's Skull, which you will all appreciate, being fans of Shakespeare and Hamlet. A lot of fun. People missed the reference with the dude. It was from the old Dead All Lives D&D. Alewives, yeah. We all missed that, Jason. I took it as a challenge. For me, it's Coke Zero, Diet Dr. Pepper. Still Dr. Pepper, man. Reddit, what's with all this newfangled technology? You punk kids with your face Twitter and rap and roll music. Exactly. Yeah, I'm new to Reddit. I've only been to Reddit once or twice. I feel as if it's one of those. I enjoy. So I'll read the news wherever I get my news. It's all over the place. But I enjoy the comments. I frequently just read the headline and the first paragraph, and that tells me everything that the reporter's trying to say in their befuddled way. And then I'll go to the comments just because of the entertainment value. The entertainment value of comments is hysterical. I mean, it's absolutely enjoyable because people will go off whatever crazy thing that they are passionate about. They will associate with almost every article they read. So it's entertaining. But the problem is, I'm starting to get long. The problem is that you get sucked into that rabbit hole, right? And all of a sudden you've got 2 hours later and you're reading crap that has no purpose in your life or anyone's life for that matter, and not even the person who wrote it. And it's just time down that hole. It's a time sump is what it is. And I've looked at Reddit once or twice, and I've always felt like, holy shit, this is a crazy time sump. I could just get sucked into this thing and read the crazy for years. And I'm sure a lot of it's not crazy, but regardless. So I've avoided it with a passion. So we did this thing today, the Ask Me Anything Reddit, and it went over extremely well, I thought. We had a lot of responses, a lot of questions. So it was very, very good. I enjoyed it. They're trying to lure you down to, yes, exactly, Kadora. down that rabbit hole. I have a question about illusionists and healing. So the description for Cure Light Wound says that when an illusionist casts it, the recipient must make an intelligence saving throw. A successful save means that the spell fails. Did you intend that to apply to player characters? As written, it seems that an illusionist as a party healer is exceptionally ineffective. Lastly, can a player choose to fail a saving throw? So the question is yes. At my table, I allow them to fail a saving throw. They don't have to make the saving throw. They can believe the idea behind the illusionist able to heal that Cure Light Wounds is that they are, tricking the individual's mind into, I don't know, you can do it physiologically with an adrenaline pump or whatever it is. Maybe the wounds, if it's not a ripped open kidney, a lot of it's exhaustion, a lot of whatever it is, that the illusion can dispel that exhaustion, make people feel better, make, confident, whatever brings those hit points back that fits your game, the way you run your game. So yes, they can choose to fail the save, but if they have to, if the CK wants them to, then they got to make an intelligence save. And it doesn't make it completely ineffective, but you're right. it limits them because there's a good chance they're going to make their saving throw, especially if it's a wizard or something like that. So I just kind of discard it with the idea that certainly if I believe this person is capable of wielding magic, why wouldn't I believe that this person is capable of healing my wounds? So I have zero problem with that. It's one of those things that we really, and it probably should be opened up a little bit to let people know, go the route you want to go on this. Because then it does, you're right, if it reduces the illusionist's healing ability by 50%, that's pretty, and it's more than 50, right? Because your base chance to succeed is 12. And it'll be less than 50. I'm not very good at math. Yeah. And if your healing is done by illusion, could you even cast it on an unconscious player since they wouldn't be able to witness the illusion? I allow it to be cast on unconscious players for the exact same kind of reason. The magic itself becomes, and this is sort of what, somewhere there's an essay, I think it's the CKG, we based it off of the Green Lantern, the way the Green Lantern's magic, or his ring, whatever, physically manifests and causes physical damage, and it's kind of the same thing that is this, and I didn't write this section, Mark did, and he explains it far better than I do. Some of it is mental, and that's what you're talking about, the person's passed out, but some of the illusionist magic is actual physical magic, so I certainly allow it, I mean, not certainly, but I allow it to heal even the unconscious, simply because, for me, for my game, I want more healing at the table, because I don't want the cleric to feel as if they're required to be the healer. That's the primary purpose behind that illusionist and behind the medical packs and the bandages and the salves that we put in the adventurer's backpack is to alleviate the problem for those people who want to play a cleric but don't want to be a medic. We now have given a second set of tools. I'm going to do that a smidgen with the rune mark. They're going to be able to heal a little bit, not much, but just a little bit with very specific spells like the marrow spell. They're able to take the bone, an old bone, and carve runes on it and make the bone come back to life, and the marrow within can feed you. It's not going to heal you, but it's nourishment that you can get out of it. So it's one of the things I'm toying with there. But yeah, so your point is extraordinarily valid, and we leave that really up to the CK. If the CK doesn't want the illusion to heal while they're sleeping, then it doesn't. I would say it's beneficial, so a PC would always choose to fail. That's kind of where I fall on it. And thank you for the subscription, Retro Gamer, much appreciated. Reddit has its share of crazy. Reddit turns everything crazy given enough time. That's what I hear about it. I got two sons, and one of them won't go on Reddit at all. The other one loves to go in there and pick arguments with people. So he's always on Reddit arguing with people. He'll come in here asking for information. Hey, blah. I think the last one was over whether Lenin died of lead poisoning, which you can't really find on the internet, or we couldn't. But if you get into the books, the German doctors that treated Lenin said that the two bullets that stayed in his body could have caused some kind of blood something or the other with the lead. And I asked my wife, who's a physician, and she said, yeah, that's a blah, 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 blah. So he took all that information and plunged it back into Reddit to argue with God knows who he was arguing with. But there you go. Combat cleric for the win. Yeah, it's me. I love combat. I like clerics. It's my second favorite class to play. I play the fighter, dwarf fighter first, and then the cleric right after that. And I don't heal. I mean, I will. I just don't want to. And they got all these other cool spells that they could be messing with. That they didn't have to heal people. They was only getting wounded all the time. So what you're saying is you can really bone folks. Yeah, with the bone, with the Lord of Bones. Yeah, that whole school of runes is dangerous in its linguistic side of things with the bone. So we'll just we'll let the end user figure that out. Can you talk about the changes you plan to make to the first aid spell in the updated PHP? I need clarification at my table because my players are crazy about changes. Yeah, so it's going to be very simple. That spell, I think I've said this before, that spell was designed really for the way that we play at my table. And I will wound people all the time, and depending on the type of weapon I'm using, I'll have them suffer bleed damage 1 or 2 rounds, and if they go negative, I'll have them suffer bleed damage for a couple of rounds. So bleeding at my table is a problem for players, especially for lower level, because you can bleed out. You have 6 hit points, you take 2 points of damage, you bleed for 2 rounds, now you're almost dead. So stopping bleeding is crazy important. So when the first aid spell was written, it was written with that in mind. Because it saves you from taking accumulated damage. But so few people do that, and I even abandoned it at all conventions and like on the games that I'm running online. I abandoned all of that because it's just too much. It's too much for people who aren't used to playing together and don't use that kind of rule. So essentially what's going to happen is the first aid spell is going to keep that ability, and so we're not losing anything, but it's going to allow the caster to heal 1 to 2 hit points of damage once it's cast. So you actually get something out of it. Not only does it stop you from suffering further damage, but you're going to heal 1 to 2 hit points. I'm kind of torn. I kind of want it to just be 1 hit point, but it really kind of needs to be 1 to 2. Just to give it some variance, right? So it's not always the same thing over and over again. So it will be adding 1 to 2. I think I've already put that text in there. I'm pretty sure I have. Now just watch. 8th printing will come out, and it won't be in there. My players want to assassinate me now. Yeah, no, you've got quite a few of them, so you got to keep them happy. So, Steve, so many times as you have had to talk about Gary Gygax, especially Gary Gygax, especially how you met him or what he was like, do you get tired of answering those same questions over and over? I really don't. I think that, a couple months ago I watched Gary get kind of pilloried online on Twitter, and I did not wade into it. I felt like I should, but I did not because Twitter. But I don't get tired of talking about it because I hear so many things that are just not accurate about Gary. That any one person that even hears me kind of, in an ancillary sort of fashion, and understands that Gary wasn't this person that he's often painted as, and then that just makes me happier. No, I don't ever mind talking about Gary. He was a very, very good friend of mine, and he was a great, fantastic business partner, and I loved working with him, and I miss working with him all the time. He was, don't get me wrong, he tore at me occasionally when we disagreed. Now, I never got really tore at him, elders and all that, but he could tear in, and that was fine because we were business partners, and that's what you do. And he had a whole lot of IP at stake that he wanted done a certain way, and I can understand that. But no, I don't really get tired of talking about Gary. He's a good guy. He was a good guy, and people need to know that. I think probably one of the hardest things for me to swallow was, and I heard this a lot while he was alive, that I don't hear it so much anymore, but I heard a lot while he was alive that he was impossible to work with, that he's always yelling at people, he was bossy, he was all this other stuff. And I took it in stride. I don't know. I wasn't at TSR in the 1970s and the 1980s. I have no idea what it was like. You would get very reasonable commentary from Jim Ward and Ernie Gygax. But I remember after about 4 years of running TLG, and now I didn't have 400 employees. I think they had over 400 employees at one point, I think. I've never had that many. At most, we've had like 5 employees, and then like 7 or 8 contractors that we work with a lot. And let me tell you, I get pretty angry because there's lots of money on the line, and there's lots of products, and there's lots of stuff, especially now in the age of Kickstarter with people prepaying for stuff like they are. It drives me crazy when we're late and things aren't done, blah, whatever. But so I started to tell people in 0405, when this began to sink in after I'd run the company for a while, I was like, listen, I get that you guys think Gary was angry, but everybody's paycheck depended on his decisions. If he made a bad decision, people got fired. So, because he couldn't afford to pay him. So there's a huge amount of pressure on, a business owner, whether it's small business or large business. I'm not saying it's bad or whatever. It's just, it is what it is. But, so I think a little attitude for Gary's temper probably should be given. And then from a personal perspective, he and I, and my favorite story, and I think I told it in the Reddit, I think I did, and I told it 1,000 times, is we were arguing. We were having quite an argument. I don't even know if the argument was over. I'm sure it was something to do with, it had to be one of the GFW series. It may have been the logo. I don't know. I can't remember. But at the end of the email where he kind of dresses me down, this is what, the end of it is like postscript, would Pete like a bow and arrow for his birthday? I know it's coming up, blah, 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 blah. If that would be okay, blah, blah, blah. And it was so cool to watch the transition from from business rage to, hey, Steve, blah, 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 blah. It was just cool. So he was an individual who was capable of separating parts of his life very seamlessly Always a complete pleasure to hang out with. I didn't ever. I cannot think of a bad Gary Gygax experience that I had in 8 years of working with him. Even when he was angry with me or upset with me, which he was occasionally, I don't look at those as bad experiences. That was just working together. Me and Davis get angry at each other. And we've known each other for 50 years. I've never minded playing a support role as a cleric. I'm usually home to do more than just heal. Some people love that, and that's cool. I mean, I think that's great. Some people absolutely love it, and I know that's part of the mythology of the class has become, not mythology, but the methodology behind the class has kind of developed in that direction, and it's a huge thing. Bigger, I suspect, than in RPGs. It's a huge thing in video games. I was watching my son play Dota. Is it Dota? Is that what it is? And the healer is crazy important. Crazy important, because they've got to figure out who to heal and when to heal, because the damage is coming so fast and everything's going so fast in those games, and there's no hesitation where you don't get to stop and read your book to see what spell you got to cast. You're going to die. So the healers in video games have taken on a whole different kind of facade than they do in RPGs. But so I get it. Some people love that stuff. But for me, M5, I want to give the player and myself, I want to give them the option to not. If they want to heal, that's great. If they do, great. My cleric and checks game sucks at both healing and combat. Yeah, well, then you probably roll like I do. I never thought of Gary Gygax as the villain of any story. What happened at TSR was beyond his control, and he was royally screwed by all accounts. Yeah, that whole thing, all of that kind of fell apart in whatever fashion it did, as businesses will. But what I heard in the early days, I think the funniest thing I ever heard about Gary, we had signed him about a year before, and we were doing the beginning of and then we worked, and the Canting Crew came out, and it was the beginning of the convention circuit. In those days, Origins was earlier in the year. I want to say it was May. And we went to Origins, and we set up, and we had the Canting, huge booth of Canting Crew all over the place. Gygax banners and stuff. And this this story has so many facets funny to it. This guy comes up, and he points to the Gary Gygax stuff. And he says, "You're publishing Gary Gygax? You're through. You're done. You're not going to make it a year from now." And then he walked off. The funny thing about that guy was, that dude was our distributor. He was our consolidator. I can't remember his name now. It was Eric something. And he ran, what was the name of that little company? We first signed with a tiny, Wizard's Attic. We signed with Wizard's Attic. And he didn't even recognize us as one of his clients. I remember turning to Chris Harrison Mack were in the booth, and I remember turning to Chris going, "What the?" He doesn't even know who we are. It was so funny. But obviously he was horribly mistaken. It's the GFW, it's the Gygax stuff that got Troll Games through the D20 collapse. When D20 collapsed in 2004, 2005, it was the Gygaxian material that salvaged, kept the company with enough revenue to keep us alive. Regarding Gary and all those stories, there's always two sides to every story, and someone in the middle. Yeah, that's exactly right, Jason. That's exactly right. That's why it's good to talk. If you want good, honest tales, talk to Ernie. Ernie's always really open, and there's no bitterness, there's no anger. There's he just wants to game. That's all Ernie wants to do. He's very happy, and he just wants to game. But he'll tell you kind of how it happened, and it's really good stuff. Any more chances to win a seat to roleplay at Steven's virtual table? Had great fun of it last week. Yes, we're going to do one more table on the Kickstarter, and then we're trying to set it up, Willie, that I'm running a game online once a month. That is the plan. I don't know how we're going to get tickets out, but that is the plan. How was your day off last week? That will be the last one for a few years. Oh, but yeah, no more days off. You're not wrong there. I ended up in the hospital, but I'm out now and working. So yeah, I told Chuck, no more hospital visits either. None of that. No more anything. Ooh, Steve must be working you too hard. I'm gonna kill everyone in the company. It's what the trolls do. Get in line, creepy. There you go. Yeah, Steve is an angel. Where's Chuck? Where's Chuck? I don't know how the internet works. Yeah, Chuck asked me to put something on the Reddit thing today. He said, you need to go and edit something. I don't know what he's talking about. So I didn't edit it. I don't know what he's on about. So Chuck, I didn't edit the page, but we've not had any comments in an hour or so it's good. Unfortunately, too much politics involved in business, and the bigger the business, the worse politics. Sadly, what happened to Gygax would have happened to anyone else in his shoes at the time. Yeah, it's just, and no one knew. I mean, that company went from, a basement to 400 employees in 5 years or something like that, if not sooner. It exploded, and it's a tough thing to kind of absorb all of that, especially when you have partners involved, especially when you have some partners that aren't as vested in the company's primary source of revenue. I mean, so it gets dicey, and I think probably I've always said that the most regretful shot of the American Civil War was the one that killed Lincoln, and there's a vast trove of reasons for that, but I think a lot of the bitterness after the war would have not happened had Lincoln stayed as president, and he definitely would have been reelected. And in TSR, when Don Kay died, I think that changed the dynamic. I think Don Kay and Gary, from what I gathered, those two were in simpatico and saw, the world according to. But his untimely death kind of threw things into a loop. And it just, it happened. That's the way it happens. Especially considering none of the players involved had any business experience before TSR. Yep, that's spot on. Did you ever have any dealings, workings, hangs out with Leonard Lakovka? No, I didn't. I met him once, years and years ago, at North Texas Con. And very nice fellow. And that's be it. But Chuck had been negotiating with him to do a sequel to Bone Hill. And I know he was in talks with that a couple of months ago. And sadly, that's not going to happen now. Bone Hill is one of my all-time favorite adventures. I absolutely love that adventure. And it would have been a great thing for both for me personally and for the company to bring him on board and do some more stuff. It's just a shame that it didn't happen. And my thoughts and prayers for his family. Luddite, yes, yes I am. Perry, I've developed a theory. It's called the button theory. I think that I think I talked about this last week, back in the 18-whenevers, when whatever member of the soon-to-be Amish community saw buttons, he was like, you know what, this is too much. I'm done. I'm out. I'm finished. We're staying with the toggles. We're not using anything beyond the toggle. The buttons are just too much. And I think that I've hit my button. I've hit my button. It's just too much. It's just too much. I don't want to learn anything else. I just want to write some spells and do some short stories and argue with Jason about whatever Jason and I are arguing about game design wise. We don't ever argue. Steve, I think I'm just about wrapped up with those revised spellcasting rules. Excellent. Good deal. I got to get back on that. I know that Chapter 1's done and ready for layout, and I got to get the rest of it kind of moving along. And Max got all the chapters in hand. I got to get on top of that one. Really, by tomorrow, I need to get on top of it. And so, yeah, send that over to me. Jason will pop it in. Let's see. How's it going? The real Dogrum. A little less than that's perfect. We'll jam it in there. We're probably just going to go. We're going to end up adding 2 signatures. I only wanted to add 1, but we're going to end up adding 2. Retirement plan, drive employees to. There you go. Must be carried over from Steve's Army days. Yeah. Simpler times. When I look back, what was I watching the X-Files? And it's so much simpler, and that was just a few years ago. Everything seems so much more complex now. It's not, but it seems so much with all of this, monitors and it's exhausting. I want to become famous by followers, primes, and views. Wait, Harakio. I'm guessing we're being spammed. Okay. That's the artist. Work them until they fall. Yes. Hey, my keyboard has almost all the letters wiped away. These are the same advice spellcasting that will be in the next many of Amazing Adventures. We're gearing up for that next year. Yes, Chuck, you need to get on that. Did you just ban poor whoever who was trying to sell us stuff? That seems kind of rude. Checking that Reddit. We got 1 comment. Let's see what this is. Yeah, it's a fellow talking about. I can't quite master the Reddit thing, but games are from Apocalypse World, like Dungeon Rolls. It's a project. Oh no, this was something else. Okay. He asked a question. It's actually the first question that went up. It's a games about apocalypse games, and I wasn't quite certain what he was talking about. How did you resolve the 2 archer classes? They were quite different from one another. I forgot to put Jason's in the book. That was it. He sent it to me. And mine was already in the book, the one I wrote, and so I just went with mine. And then later Jason's like, yeah. What was it, Jason? What is it the other day? Oh yeah, so Jason. So let me give you a little insight into Jason. So Jason he's like Gary in that he's the consummate gamer, and he follows all of the trends, and he knows this stuff. I mean, he takes great passion in it, and that's fantastic. And so he knows he's got this volume of information that I do not have. I pretty much went from AD&D to Gamma World to Castles and Crusades. So I played like Dark Heresy and some Roll Master, but I don't remember anything about it. I don't remember anything because I only played it, 4 or 5 times or whatever. Just bits and pieces come to me. Traveler, I did play Traveler, but no, Jason's different. So Jason has this volume of information, and so he's constantly saying, "Dude, you need to check into this. Dude, check into this. Check into this." And I'll do it sometimes. Sometimes I won't. I'm busy or whatever, or I don't know what he's talking about. Or if I need to know some information, I'll ask Jason. Jason, what's this? I don't know what's going on here. It's like the famous email I sent. Not famous, but the email, one of my favorite emails I sent to Gary when CNC had just come out. They were digesting it all over the place, and someone said, "This is just like the Moldvay version of Dungeons and Dragons." And about the third comment about that, I was like, I have no idea what these people are talking about. So I emailed Gary and said, "What is a Moldvay version of Dungeons and Dragons?" His response was hilarious. But so that's what Jason is. And the other day he suggested, "Dude, you need to check into the Blackmore licensing." And I remember Blackmore. I know Dave Arneson. I know that it was one of the original, but I don't know that if I read it, I don't remember anything about it. I never played Blackmore. I'm a Greyhawk guy. And so I went and looked it up. I said, okay, what is he on about, this Blackmore stuff? And it's awesome. It's just fucking awesome. So I immediately said, "Do you have contact? Do you have anyone to contact?" And he found me, I think the daughter, within like 2 minutes. And so I contacted her, and she wrote back and said they're in negotiations with someone else. And I was like, damn it, why didn't I listen to Jason 2 years ago when he first suggested this? So that's Jason and I's relationship here at the company. Yeah, there you go. Sometimes Steve asks me things and I say, we talked about this 6 times. Yeah, I have a short memory. Primarily I'm focused on the task at hand. But yeah, I do remember the knock-knock joke. So I will endeavor to listen to Jason more, but we'll see how it plans out. What are your thoughts on the Dragonlance lawsuit? Is this going to be the death of Dragonlance? I have to say, this... Man, I get the tone of the age that we're living in. I completely understand it. Whether it's overblown or not, you be the judge. But and I know that Wizards got in a little bit of trouble 6 months ago or something with some employees that did some sexual harassment or racial profiling. I can't remember what it was. It was something. They did something. And I think that got the legal team there really... hypersensitive. When we're seeing this all over the place, just a hypersensitivity to these things when I'm not certain it's necessary. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not in their shoes. Can't say. But I suspect that played into the whole pulling the licensing thing. But from a publishing standpoint, from a business standpoint, the blowback would have to be beyond extraordinary to cap the value of that property. I mean, unless you're just really all taking this moral ground. I don't know. We're all in. This is really... I'm going to get myself into trouble here very soon. But I don't know. The Dragonlance properties are through the roof valuable. I mean, we're talking millions and millions and millions of books sold. It pretty much... I don't know that it carried TSR in the end, but it probably carried TSR in the end. Those fiction books sold just crazy. The whole series. And then to sign a contract and then to renege in mid-stride is crazy to me for that. One, you're opening yourself up to a lawsuit, which obviously it did. I don't know what kind of outs they had. They may have had something built into it. I don't know. They probably can afford to pay the damages and move on. But it's sad because this wonderful property, which I don't think... It's been a long time since I read it. I don't remember anything in it being offensive. Maybe the Kinder? I don't know, but they don't exist. So, I don't know. It's crazy to me my hope is that Margaret Weiss or Tracy Hickman, both together, I suppose, would, in this lawsuit, get the properties back. It's not likely to happen. Hasbro has a very long corporate history of gobbling up licenses of properties and sitting on them or not letting them go. So I doubt seriously that they're going to let that go, unless there really is stuff in there that is so egregious that it's, whatever. But I don't know. If they don't get it back, my guess is Dragonlance will be dead for at least a few years until, tones change or what have you. I don't know. It's very sad is what it is. It's even sadder that Margaret and Tracy put all this work because they were done. My understanding is they were done with one volume and were mostly done with the second volume. So we're already 2/3 of the trilogy done. When suddenly, the rug is yanked out from under them. It's sad. Hopefully it's not the end of Dragonlance. It'll never be, let me put it this way. Let me rephrase that. There will never be an end to Dragonlance because there's so many Dragonlance books out now. And even minimally you've got, it's like the end of Tolkien. There's not. He's here. Dragonlance is here. It's funny. Someone in the AMA on Reddit today asked about D&D settings, and I didn't even include Dragonlance in it. I included Greyhawk Forgotten Realms and Eberron, however you pronounce it, and Dragonlance never popped into my head, which was weird. Because Dragonlance is definitely a D&D setting, but in my head it's not. It's like Middle Earth. It's its own thing, its own entity. So minimally, Grape Ape will always have that. Wasn't that what is that? The end of Casablanca will always have. What is it? Paris? What does she say? I don't know what she says. She says something. Yeah, I'd love to. I said obviously we couldn't buy it, but I sent Tracy Hickman an email. I've worked with him. We almost did some projects together a few years ago, so I reached out to him. I haven't heard back. I mean, I heard back, and then I haven't heard back since the conversation hasn't proceeded. So we'll see where that goes. The player's handbook image behind you is Chenault. Yeah, that's the cover for the alternate, wherever it is. I don't know what it is. I've got everything open today. I'm working on that. Whatever. Yeah, it's a cover for it's a cover for the alternate version. Absolutely love that piece. I love that dragon, and I love the fact that the knight, I don't know if you can see, the knight is the one getting the treasure out of the trunk while the thief, or if it's a thief, whatever she is, and then the wizard have to fight off the dragon. I love that. It's a nice turn of events. The first book was already proved and was evoked only later. Okay, that's where we were in the process. It's just sad. I think Wizards of the Coast got cold feet over the Gully Dwarf and the whole Riverview Gold Moon. Okay, I can't remember the Riverview Gold Moon. The Gully Dwarfs, I guess, maybe, I don't know. I suppose. Now, what happened with Riverview and Gold Moon? That I don't remember. It could also be Tennis Half Oven and How He Was Conceived. I can't remember anything weird about it. It's been so many years since I read Dragonlance. I'm so much out of my element with Dragonlance. It's probably a culmination of all of these things that scared someone in the legal, and they didn't want the Twitter storm that was going to follow, that they feared would follow. And it probably would have. It could also be, let's see, if they don't let the IP go, that's proof that there's no reason to axe the Dragonlance property. Maybe outside the books that are already published, double standard kind of. Yeah, but their corporate philosophy. So from a big picture, clever isn't so much in dealing with the IP now. They know if they keep it in their stable 15 to 20 years from now, the environment could be extraordinarily different, and there you have it. They can do whatever they want with it. You know what I mean? So that's my understanding of Hasbro's basic corporate philosophy. And if you're large enough to be able to do that, to sit on a property for 20 or 30 years, then, well, I guess more power to you. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm a big capitalist, but I'm not sure yet. Maybe, yeah. I would just like to see, Trollord Games has kind of a standard policy. We don't own a lot of the stuff, some of the art, some of the text. But a lot of it, the writers own. Haunted Highlands, Casey Christopherson owns that. So, I'm a big fan of creator owning it. So, did you include Arid? No, I did not include Arid as a D&D setting. I guess it has officially been a Dungeons & Dragons setting, though, because it was Dungeons & Dragons 3.0. That's funny. I didn't even think of that. I saw a comment about the matter that someone said Wizard Coast doesn't even deserve to publish D&D anymore. Got me thinking. Yeah, it's a little bit. I whatever. I don't judge other game designers. I don't care. Carry on. But the whole thing with the orcs and the stuff is weird. It's just weird. It's an orc. Doesn't really exist. But I'm just saying. What I know. It is about gully dwellers and the fact that Goldmoon is a blonde-haired, white-haired indigenous woman. Yeah, that could be it. I don't know. Riverview Goldmoon and its Native American influence. So maybe there's a little bit of fear that it would upset Native American communities. Could be. Yeah, maybe a culmination of things in there that just had them spooked. And then really they should give the property back. They should just, in exchange for monetary, just get, if they don't want to do it, by chances are they're going to sit on it. Do we have fiction from the world of art? We do. I've written and published 8 short stories and one small, I had them here not long ago. There's the end in there, but that's in the Codex of Air. Shit. What are they called? Tim, a Houseless God. There's a Houseless God, Tales of Yurik Gunshoff, a Houseless God, and then I don't know where Tim is. Tim's one. Tim, you still there? I'm falling way behind. But yes, there is. If you go to the store, there's a section for fiction. I'm going to try to get it up somewhere. That sounded weird. I'm going to call up the website. Let's do that. Blah, 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 blah. What are we looking at? Where's the other one? The Mirrored Soul is the other one, and the Houseless God, and I'm working on a second set. Let's see, put that in there. And I'm working on a second set of... Okay, apparently Tim already answered all of that and put that up. Excellent. All right, so let me scroll back. Yes, I'm way behind on these comments. You are probably right, Steve, but maybe Hickman Weiss can get it. I hope so. That's how I hope the lawsuit plays out. Big picture for them and their families is for them to get the IP back. And then their families can use the IP in the future, and they could use it in the now, which I think is great. I'm just a big fan of that. Elisa Faden was doing a great Twitch in the past 2 weeks with TLG maps. Very cool to hear all that. I tell you, what I saw her post is just beyond fantastic. That stuff's for the Castle Keeper's Guide, and then she and I have got this project in mind that I really want to get started with. I'm going to let her get done with the CKG stuff, and I'll get through the rune lore spells. But I'm just super excited about it. Her maps are just through the roof. Thank you for the subscription, Crow. Very, very much appreciated. And I'm always remiss in this, but please, if you haven't given us a follow, please give us a follow. We appreciate you stopping by, and we are here today. I'm Steve Chenault from Trollhood Games, asking me anything. So if you have any questions, comments, about pretty much anything, I'll answer as best I can if I have any knowledge of it. And I might even answer if I don't. So, let's see. So I just picked up a half-price books find last week that included The Malady of Kings. Was aired at one time called aired. Yes, it was. In the beginning, I spelled it E-R-D-E. And when we did the reprint, I guess the folio edition, I changed it to the folio edition because we had a number of German fans wrote in and said, this is really nice. They were super nice about it. And this is really cool, this world, I love it, but in your use of German words is very off-putting for us because you're just saying Earth. So I thought that makes a lot of sense, and that certainly is where the word came from. Such a heavy German influence in my early writings that and then I went through and kind of rewrote it so that Dwarf being the core language of Erd, that has the German influences, and everything out beyond that kind of evolves and changes. So Erde is the Dwarven word for father. Alerde is the Dwarven word for all-father. And Erd becomes the bastardization of the Dwarven word for the world that the All-Father created, and that's where Erd comes from. But yes, in the early days, that's what it was. Ultra, she puts that level of work into... Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Elisa Faden is insanely crazy. Thank you, Clever. Thanks for the subscription. Very much appreciated. Let's see, why the change? Well, I think I explained it. All right, thanks. Let's see, I had an idea for an epic trilogy for Erd a long time ago, but Steve felt it was too metaplot. Yes, your blood elves. I remember that. Ever kept pronouncing it Erde. Yeah, I interestingly, sometimes, like I just did when I'm pronouncing the dwarven pronunciation is Erde, and I think I've picked that up off of the internet. I think I've picked that up from other people because I've never pronounced. It's been Erd. Alerd is the thing, but it rolls a little better with Erde. Alerde is kind of cool. I like the world of Erd, but when the dwarves say it, Alerde is kind of cool. Mirrored Soul. Saw them on their website. Just didn't see World of Erd branding on the covers. Thanks for the heads up. Will there be a redo for Castle Keeper's Guide at the Player's Handbook Kickstarter? We were in the middle of, we did a CKG Kickstarter a few months ago, and we're deep in the editing session now. I think chapter 1's done, going to layout. And of course it's got 19 chapters, and then, I don't know, we're deep, we're at halfway through the editing. I'm really hoping to have that out by Christmas. I'm not sure it's going to make it, but I'm hoping it's out. What is the atomic weight of Mercury? I'm just going to make it up. 12 pounds? What is that? I don't know if you guys watch Always Sunny in Philadelphia, but they're doing a global warming thing, and I'm trying to remember the sequence. At one point, Dee's character, Charlie's character says, "Let's take the bus," and then Dee goes, "Take the bus? Take the bus? What do you mean take the bus? Do you know how much pollution a bus creates?" And Charlie goes, "I don't know, 3." And she goes, "3? 3 pollutions?" Which is so funny. Absolutely love that show. It's abhorrently obnoxious as it can be. There you go. You love it. Oh, I did. They're actually, yeah, I was literally reading those yesterday. Oh, yeah, I thought the Blood Elves were the part of the extra-dimensional invasion. Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't want the extra-dimensional invasion. I was thinking that I got the Blood Elves mixed up with that. Yeah, I was actually reading the Blood Elves just yesterday. Well, we're going to now... the Player's Guide to Erd Castles and Crusades version has sold out. It's on the docket. We aren't working on it because we have too many other projects going on. But so Jason wrote for the Player's Guide to Erd for the 5th edition game. He wrote this Blood Elf section, a few other sections, and he really fleshed out the history section for me for his book, because that's his book. And we're going to take that stuff and port it into the CNC version when we get to that, which will be sooner than later, because that book is a cornerstone of the Erd line, and I can't have it out of print. It's either going to come out as a soft cover, or we're going to do something on it, maybe an Indiegogo or something, because I need to get that thing back out. Earth Dawn crossover. When you add the prefix, it takes an almost Arabic tone. Yeah, I like. I've actually written grammar rules for the Dwarven language. Tim's kind of gone over them a little bit. Tim's much better at grammar than I am. But I'm actually, so I've got a dictionary that's like, I don't know, it's about 12 pages long of just the Dwarven and Vulgate English translations of things. And that's how I come up with the naming conventions in Erd. And then I've got grammar rules beyond that, how things are made plural and blah. So that the owl has something to do. I can't remember now. It's been too long since I looked at it. I'm horrible at grammar. No, CNC Blood Elves have nothing to do with Earth Dawn. I didn't even know that was a thing in Earth Dawn. There you go. For the add-ons in the Kickstarter, if one adds on the Castle Keeper's Guide, is that going to be the new one? You get to choose, Crow. We're going to put up there. You can do one or the other. We'll do... I don't know how we did it before on the Player's Handbook. I'm not sure how we'll do it again. So you'll get to choose. So the one will be the wizard holding the book, and then the other one will be whatever Jason's supposed to have. I think he's going to have a piece, the sketch for me tomorrow that I hope we can throw out there. That's a Steve and crew question. I would expect so, but don't want to steer you wrong. So you may be able to get it. Yeah. So in the bagger kit, I know we did it before, so we're going to replicate that, but I don't know how it was done. Tim did that, so Tim will have to do it again. Steve, give me some advice. Will you? Probably a silly question, but I want a second opinion. I'm working on doing some of my own classes for my game, and I want to give them some good-looking professional layout. How would you recommend writing my first drafts? Microsoft Word or just a regular notebook? I've gone away from notebooks and all of that stuff. If I'm somewhere I can't get a hold of Word, then I'll scribble some notes down on something. But I try to go to Word and make the notes. And what I'll do is I'll write just whatever's on my mind, and not to worry about grammar, spelling, complete sentences, any of that crap. It's just, okay, I want this, and this, and then I'll move it out of the way, and then I'll start writing just kind of the descriptive context of what I see in my head. And this is what I want the oath sworn to look like. This is the way. This becomes a problem later, but this is what, because then it gets kind of cemented in my head, and I can describe whatever the class is, and the stereotype of what I kind of perceive that they should be played like, and then I'll go back in and start fleshing things out. Now, of course, in CNC we've got a template. I think it's 5 paragraphs for the class, 3 for the monster. And 4 for the monster, and each one has a specific subject that goes in it. That's the way it's supposed to be. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's kind of the way I do it. And then as I'm kind of going through those notes that I made at the very beginning, I'll reference them and say, okay, this is going to work, or this isn't going to work. And if it is going to work, then I'll yank that up and drop it in. For monsters, it's much easier actually, because I can't remember it offhand. I'd have to open the file, but first paragraph is description. Second paragraph is habitat and group. Second paragraph is, I think it's attitude. Is it violent? Is it this? Is it that? Third paragraph is its habitat, where it lives, how it lives, who it travels with. Fourth paragraph is random stuff that might go with the monster. So sometimes there's not a fourth paragraph. So like when I'm doing a monster, I can just open up that template, save to monster name, and then I just go in and write in thoughts that I have in each of those 4 sections, and then I can go back and flesh them out. So I'm a huge fan of Word. I use it for just about everything. Is there a possibility of raffling tickets off for a game with Davis? No. Davis doesn't. He doesn't like running games much anymore. He will occasionally, but and his. Maybe. I doubt it. I would love it if he did. Davis, obviously, he's my older brother, and he ran me in games for years and years and years and years before I started, 4 or 5 years before I started, and I loved his games. And anytime Davis wants to DM, I'm there at the table, because I know they're insanely hard. There's no reward, and the chances of you dying are extremely high. And thrown in with vivid descriptions. He was a cultural anthropologist for 2 decades, so he's got all of this knowledge on the way societies, especially primitive societies, work, that he brings it all to the table, and it's just great. But sadly, probably not. No, it wasn't a dumb question at all. It's so hard to say, folks, and get worried about editing. Yeah, I wouldn't even worry about the editing yet. Just get all of your concepts down. And flesh these ideas out, because you don't want to lose the ideas if you get hung up. And this is what happens with a lot of people. If you get hung up trying to clean your introduction, and make it perfect and make everything sound, XYZ, then you might lose ideas that you had, or lose your focus. And especially if you didn't write that down. I'm this way. I'm horrible this way. If I've got this great idea, if I don't put it somewhere, I'm not going to remember it. I can't remember 4 things I need at the grocery store, much less, some concept that I have. So I immediately put it down. And then later, once I'm done and I feel, okay, this is finished, then I'll go back over and read it 2, 3, 4 times and get the sentences the way I want them, and to say what I want, and to use the adjectives or whatever that I want. And then I kick it to editing, and I try never to look at it again. Because if I do, then I'm going to change stuff that doesn't need to be changed. Once it goes to editing, I try not to mess with it. Now, Tim and I are actually trying something where we're editing as we go, and it's doing okay, but it's slow. It's very slow. But you got to put the editing on. I put everything back. I put everything off. Just get it written. Get all of your roughs down, and then flesh it as you go, and fix it as you go. All that comes later. And then writing. Layout is its own. That's its own animal altogether. Perry's right. Right. But yeah, that's absolutely not a dumb question by any stretch of the imagination. Focus. Let me tell you right now, Clever. I've been doing this for 20 years now. Focus is the biggest problem every writer has. Artists don't seem to have this problem. They seem to get a vision and can go. But writers staying focused and staying on task is insanely difficult, especially when you're doing a game. And Jason can back me up here. You've got all this cool stuff that you write. Now you got to spend 2 pages writing game mechanics that you just don't want to write about. You know how they're going to work. You know the way it should be, but you also got to write it so specifically that it can't be read in a different way. So writing is tough, and writing game materials is a little bit tougher. I use OneNote for stream of conscious brainstorming and then Word for writing. That's a good idea. Whatever, I would definitely go digital. That said, I mean, if you can get a little notebook, what do I got here? Something from some university. I hadn't used it yet, but this would go with me on conventions. It's just this little bitty notebook that if I have thoughts, I can just make these thoughts down. Yeah, there you go. Jason uses Word. I'm a big fan of Word. I used to use Word Perfect, but not anymore. You know, a different answer from everyone. Right? What I am hearing you say when you describe Davis's DM song is that there is going to be another Twitch game that you run for us, and then Davis is up after that. Yeah, I doubt it. It would be great, but maybe. Yeah, Davis's games are a lot of fun. A lot of people don't like them though, because they're hard, and it's an unforgiving, and the environment is what environment is. It's unforgiving. We had a whole party. I don't know if the whole party died, but I think they did die of thirst. So it's a tough game. My OCD won't let me not edit and land while I'm writing terrible curse. Yeah, that becomes a problem because you got to go back over and you're constantly fixing it. For me, I just got to get the ideas out and onto paper. And that, of course, has its own shortcomings because if it doesn't get edited properly or if I rush it into production, then we got other problems, as many of you who have been around for know. If you're just doing this for your home game, you can even go do basic layout in Word. There's no need to go beyond it for professional stuff. Steve uses InDesign. I use Affinity Publisher. InDesign is a wonderful program. I already forgot what I had for lunch. Yeah, exactly. I can't. I finally found on this thing here the notepad. Is that what it's called? Notes. So I use notes when I'm going to the grocery store. I write everything down because I can't remember anything. I know I need Dr. Pepper and milk. It's almost always what I need, but beyond that, right, you need to eat lunch. Yeah, yeah, right, go eat lunch. There you go. Make a note of that. Steve, tell us about the post-apocalyptic game you mentioned in the Reddit AMA. So what we're doing with that, and this thing has been around forever. We started this thing back in God knows when, 2000, right after Castles and Crusades come out. So it was 2006 or some craziness. And it's called Comrades. Now, we're probably going to have to change the name because the obvious connotations. The communists just ruined that great word, comrades. So we're going to have to change the name because we don't want people to think it's a game about communists. That's not really what we're going for. The idea is the kind of band of brothers type thing. And the whole purpose is that it's like 20 years from now. So tech isn't through the roof. Tech's just different. There's a little bit more medical. There's a little bit more this, a little bit more firepower, what have you, blah, blah, blah. But you're going to be able to play either a ranger, a medic, just a grunt infantryman, or a combat signaler or whatever. One of these, there's gonna be like 5 or 6 classes, and they're all kind of battle oriented. And the idea is you're weaving your way through a post-apocalyptic world, and it's more in the tune of Gamma World, and the world has collapsed. So we didn't even conceive of there being like mutants and monsters and all that kind of stuff. It's sort of surviving in a world where people are fighting people for limited resources, trying to carve something out. So it's a Siege Engine Twilight 2000. So that's kind of what we were looking at. A hard-hitting, Davis-esque, high casualty rate game that was just a whole lot of fun. So that's Comrades. That's what we were going to do. I just got an Affinity Publisher. I'm looking forward to using it to make some really good handouts. There you go. Perfect. Yeah, Jason's the man. He's been using that for months now. It's one of the real issues that it tends to crash. Yeah, save all the time. There you go. Yeah, you should probably do that with any software. Now, I had another question for you. Do you use level draining from Undead? If you use them, do you allow the players and type of save to resist? Some DMs hate level draining and all players hate it. I can't stand level draining. I don't know how it made it into Monsters and Treasures. I wrote, Robert Doyle and I wrote Monsters and Treasures, and I don't know how level draining made it into that book because I detested that ability. Primarily because at my game, you gain levels so slowly. It might take up to a year of gaming once a week to get a level, and then to have some stupid white come along and smack you around for 2 rounds and you've lost 3 levels is unacceptable. It's just unacceptable. It's just ridiculous. So in my game, I immediately change it to the levels either come back or they can be healed back, or I don't even use it. I'll use disease in a heartbeat because that's something they can fix or cure. I am not a fan of level drain. Honestly, don't know how it made it through. I honestly don't. I think you did, Commander. We're about to wind down. Yeah, it's, you know, I've written probably 3 of the 5 classes for Comrades, and Mac has written some of the other stuff. I know we've both worked on it. We had a logo made at one point. I don't know where the logo is. It was a really badass logo with an M60, I think, in that thing. It would look really cool. But one of these days. I don't think you have to wait 20 years to imagine a poster. Just wait till next week. Are we in election season or something? And we got a big one coming up. So, yeah, let's see. Let's see how this all plays out over the next 10 years. 5e DSM level essentially lasted until you sleep. See, that's cool, Jason. I can deal with that. Oh, there you go, Commander. Those damn clocks changing. That's great. Cador and Vic Danger are going to lead us into the apocalypse next Tuesday. Thanks a lot, Clever. Very much appreciated. That is about it for us. It's time to wind this guy down. I think we've gotten a little bit over, and it looks like the Reddit AMA is quieted down as well. So I thank you all for showing up. I sure appreciate it. And we'll be back. I'll be back on Thursday for Jim's Tricks of the Trade, and we've got Haunted Holler Painting at some point tomorrow. I'm not sure. 7 o'clock tomorrow, I think. Yeah, a lot of fun, everybody. Surely to appreciate it. Get some dinner and let's all kick back and relax. And Commander Pete, we'll see you later, maybe on Thursday. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks, everybody.